Check. Keep it alive through these lines I write. I keep it live cause I thrive. I might just blow your mind tonight. I'm so hyped, but it's no hype. From this height, it's direct hits on sight. I'm your type, lend me your ears to show you that there's something in me. I'm not giving up, I'm standing right here holding these days hostage. And I'll make this my year. We turning fear into love, and the love's in the air. I love doing this cause nothing compares. Nothing can share that same type of feeling when you feeling them flares. They can't catch it, it's havoc. I rip to a tear, switch the scenario. My stereos, I leave them impaired. Variables start to change and they're all in my range. I just gotta grab it, it's all mathematics. Every step is drastic, I make it fantastic. I'm trying to take your breath away. Asthmatic.
This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo. This is live through the stereo. Go and let it blow, blow through the stereo. I'ma let them know through the stereo. Yo, here we go through the stereo, stereo.
Yeah, just nod your head with it, so explicit and vivid. Every image is intricate, intimate. I put my all into it, no scrimmage and no rules. I'm a pro tool, hear my heartbeat, beat into the vocals. I'm so loco, lost my mind, oh no. It's ponderoso, dope, so no overdose, cause it's dope, yo. Man, this is house grown, mixed with some milestones. So I let the style flow down like the Dow Jones, bringing it with some foul tones, letting the crowd know we getting loud, so it's eardrum rudiments. Yeah, we bring it rude again. Move, little hooligan. Music for tuning in, full time to the 10. I'm on my clock like I told you. I'm doing this for dreams.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Anti-Media Radio Show. Once again with your host, Nick Bernabe, here on ucy.tv and the antimedia.org/radio. Really happy to be back with you. Had a crazy, awesome show on Monday. I still got a little bit of a cold here, but that didn't slow us down on Monday, so we're going to try to pull off the same type of thing again tonight. Got a great lineup of people joining us tonight on the call, a bunch of awesome members of the Anti-Media, and we're also going to be taking calls from the audience as well a little bit later. We're going to be talking about all kinds of stuff, Panama Papers, Obama, Hillary, Trump, Sanders, all kinds of stuff that's going on we're going to be talking about, and some other stuff that's not involved with mainstream politics as well. It's going to be, a crazy show, and then if there's stuff out there you guys want to talk about that we're not touching on, you can call in and we can change the subject, or, whatever, we can figure it out. If you do call in, I do ask that keep your mic on mute, because if you don't, we're going to hear ourselves talking in the back, and it's going to sound weird, and it's just not going to work. If you call in, the number is 718-717-8296. Make sure you mute up, and then we'll get to you by your area code. If you don't mute your mic, we're going to hang up on you, so it's pretty important that you do that. Anyway, let's get this thing going here. I've got one of our awesome journalists joining the panel right now, Claire Bernish. What's up, Claire?
Not much. What's up?
Oh, hanging in there, trying to get the rest of everybody on, too. We've been having some technical issues with the connections lately. DB, our co-host, has not been able to connect via Skype for a while, and, oh, man, I don't know, but we're working on it. We'll get there anyway. Let's start cracking on this trending topic, which obviously right now is the Panama Papers, and then secondly would be the elections, the Wisconsin primary that just passed. So we're going to talk about both of these things. So first off, Claire, what do you think about these Panama Papers? Because there's a bunch of different stuff going on with them, and we've covered it pretty in-depth on the Anti-Media. I'm going to cover a few of the angles, but first I want to get your opinion on the overall situation here.
Well, there really are a bunch of angles here to take, but it does seem awfully suspicious from the beginning that the papers were targeting Putin and, China and all these other places that are supposed to be, quote-unquote, the Western enemies. So it seems unlikely that, I don't know, it seems kind of like a targeting fiasco, as if like the papers came out and they were targeting the obvious targets, and we just kind of went with it, and everybody said, "Oh wow, oh my gosh, this is crazy," and then it comes out later that Western governments were not targeted, and not only that, but perhaps now there are intimations that it was a hack and not a leak. There are a bunch of different options here.
That's one of the things I was seeing, is that it wasn't actually a leak. It wasn't like a whistleblower leak. It was more of like someone hacked into them. That's what it seems like anyway. But I don't know if anyone has noticed, but our show promo meme tonight has to do with Iceland. And, Iceland has been pretty notorious about how they've got kind of a direct democracy style of government over there. And according to estimates, like 300,000 people took to the streets, I think it was, or something huge. It was like 10% of the population of Iceland took to the streets. Imagine in the U.S., that'd be like 30 million people out there protesting if 10% came out. And then the prime minister stepped down, and so obviously there was some wrongdoing going on over there. Now, many people look to Iceland as like one of the good guys, because they've been notorious about, actually holding these bankers accountable from the 2008, 2009 financial crisis. And it's like, oh, well, like Iceland is actually doing it right. Well, now we find out their prime minister had an offshore account as well. But as soon as this info comes out, the people take to the streets, and the guy steps down. He quit. He resigned. You know what I mean? I mean, this is something that you just don't see. You won't see it happen around here.
Yeah, it's a big deal, and it actually speaks a lot to Iceland. I mean, there are some criticisms out there about how Iceland handled their crisis, but by all means, any way that you look at it, Iceland handled the crisis after 2008 exponentially better than any of us did, and they have done everything right since then. And all they did was kind of protest against the Panama Papers with their prime minister, and he took it upon himself to resign. So I think that's really a good sign for them.
Yeah, I mean, it goes to show that they have somewhat of a responsive government. But the thing to keep in mind is it's a tiny country. It's really small. So it's a lot easier to keep your politicians accountable. And maybe that's a lesson that we need to learn over here in the U.S. I mean, we got 530-something people in Congress that are in charge of 300 million of us. I mean, that's a problem. And then the president, it's one guy, and he, things that the president does can have impact on every single one of us, 300 million people, and so we need to look at that and say, hey, look, maybe it's time to defederalize a little bit on the government end of things so that people can hold their elected leaders accountable like they're doing right now in Iceland. I mean, it is a lesson to be learned, and I don't think we shouldn't take it lightly. I mean, this is pretty remarkable how that happened. And it's only been a couple days. This stuff came out on Friday over the weekend? And it's like already this guy's stepping down. So, I mean, that's pretty huge.
Yeah, it came out on Sunday. I mean, it didn't take any time at all for them to rise up and kind of protest against it. And you've got to keep in mind, too, that the prime minister was responsive to the protests. I mean, he was kind of like, okay, so I did something wrong, or he didn't really admit as much maybe, but he basically said, I did something wrong, so I'm going to step down because these people don't want me in office. That would almost never happen here. You could never picture that happening here.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that is pretty remarkable. Now, the criticism that's coming out of these Panama Papers is that there's not many Americans are being named in this thing. Now, there was over 400 American names supposedly on this list, and I think we're going to maybe get some more info about that later. So they're getting a lot of heat for not releasing the American names, but there are a few that came out. We covered it on the anti-media yesterday. This guy, Robert Miracle of Washington, he was recently indicted for a Ponzi scheme. Benjamin Way, I don't know. I mean, there's a bunch of people. No one really huge. I mean, Tina Turner was even named in this stuff. I mean, that's kind of laughable. But something also remarkable is now starting to happen, and one of our team members at the Anti-Media, Jake Anderson, actually covered it today. and it was our top story regarding how there's some connections to Hillary Clinton now in these Panama Papers. I don't know if the people that the people that released them, because if you look at who's funding the organization that really did the major legwork of this, I mean, George Soros is one of the people that is behind the funding, and he's also in the pocket, or Hillary Clinton's in his pocket. But now we're starting to see some connections back to Hillary Clinton. Jake Anderson, are you on the line?
Yeah, man, I am. You feeling better?
I'm feeling a little better. I had a little whiskey, and that kind of killed the sore throat. But I'm definitely not drinking right now.
Good for you.
As
Good
we talked about, a little bit after the last show about the the president, what kind of drinks the presidential candidates would be.
All right, yeah, I think we decided that Bernie was like an old whiskey that you would drink by the fireside, and Clinton was. I think you said Clinton was a beer that had a cigarette put out in it.
Yeah, that you actually drank the next
I said
day.
that she was a shot of vodka that had been dosed with something.
Yeah, there you go. And the Ted Cruz was Jim Jones flavored Kool-Aid.
Yeah, we're funny.
So anyway, these Panama Papers, I mean, it really does. I've seen plenty of criticism saying, "Oh, this is just a hit job against the enemies of the West and stuff." But I don't think the people that released them anticipated the ties that were going to come back to Hillary Clinton. So, Jake, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's and first of all, let me state I was incorrect on my Iceland number. It's not 10%. It's a lot, but it's not 10%. It's 10,000 people, population 320,000. So it's actually significantly less than 10%. I have corrected that in the article, and I apologize for breaking anyone's heart on that number there. But yeah, a lot of information is coming out. I mean, Julian Assange, this came out, really within the last few hours. WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange is stating outright that this was funded by George Soros, and that this was a U.S. hit on Putin. I can never say his name right. And, it's really I find it highly suspicious that only foreign names, and not just foreign leaders, but specifically foreign leaders that are not allies of us. Like it's the Saudis are not being listed, the United Arab Emirates are not being listed. Like, it's just weird, like how it really feels like a targeted hit. But having said that, it's still important, like Claire said, and it is remarkable. I think. I mean, we should definitely not overlook how remarkable it is what happened in Iceland. And I still think a lot more information is going to come out. But from what I've read so far, the ties to Hillary Clinton are as follows. She, in lobbying for the Panama trade agreement, she was expressly warned that this would create tax havens, and she pretty much ignored that and pushed it, and was a vociferous or a loud proponent of it, and as was Obama. And one of the major financial institutions that's being named in the league is the Deutsche Bank. Is that how you say it? God, I don't know how to say that, but
I think you're close. Yeah,
close
Deutsche
enough.
Bank.
All right. And so she, within a very short period of time after the trade agreement went through, or I don't know the time frame actually, but regardless, she received $485,000 from the Deutsche Bank to give a speech. Now, yeah, that's circumstantial evidence. That's not that. It's just fishy. And when you add that to the fact that her name is linked also to one Russian bank and one Russian billionaire, which is weird, but her name is showing up in there. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean criminal wrongdoing. That hasn't been proven yet, but I think it will. I really do think it will. I think it's possible that a lot of information is being withheld until after the election. I think we saw that this leak, we don't even know, there's no data pile of the leak. There's no place where all of the information is sitting. The person who leaked it specifically went to the consortium of journalists and had them disseminate the information. And now so it was filtered once, and now it's being filtered a second time through media companies. So we have no idea what's in the leak. We have no idea the nature of the leak, really. I mean, you can't. I don't know what a leak is that not only doesn't have a source, but the person won't even say who they are, and we don't know if it's from inside the company or not. It's really suspicious. I don't know. This is
the law firm is claiming that it was external hacking, right?
Which would speak to it being a hit, because if it was a normal leak is from a disgruntled whistleblower inside, right? They would say these are improprieties that I want to reveal to the world. It's less. You don't normally hack someone and then have the information come out that doesn't shine any negative light on you, even though we know major offshoring is going on from the top down in the U.S. So it's just incomprehensible that no major U.S. names are coming out. I simply don't believe it, and I think it will come out that this was a very suspicious leak. But it's the people being named still did the things. I mean, they're still guilty of whatever connections are being named. I just think it's a controlled leak, is what I think.
Exactly, and I think that's a pretty fair hypothesis. Now, again, I go back to the fact that Soros funds this organization of investigative journalists, and the fact that now we're seeing connections to Hillary Clinton. I was sitting here when we published that story earlier, and I put it up on Facebook, and I saw it start going viral. I'm like, damn, I bet you they're sitting in their room right now saying, oh shit, we didn't do enough research before we let this stuff out. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think, yeah. I mean, I was surprised, frankly, when I started researching. I didn't expect there to be. I Googled Panama Papers Clinton. That was my keyword search, and there immediately about 3 articles came out. One from the Daily Kos, and a couple others, and it can't. We don't know if there was criminal wrongdoing on Clinton's part, but there's 3 connections, and the Deutsche Bank also made massive donations to the Clinton Foundation.
Yeah,
now,
this came after she lobbied for this trade deal, this Panamanian trade deal that was going to benefit this bank, and then later on they gave her like almost $500,000 in speaking fees, right?
Which is the only legal way they could do it. Basically, that's what this is you're seeing the legal way to commit a crime. I know that sounds weird, but it's. I think they figured out a way to not actually be linked to anything in the leak. That's possible.
And that's one of I think it was The Intercept I saw make that point, is that a lot of the stuff that was done, albeit it's not like ethical the way that this stuff was being done through this Panamanian law firm, but for the most part it was legal, and that's the problem. It's like they're able to get away with this corrupt shit, and whether it's like, I mean, I guess we can call it bribery. It's basically bribery. And they're able to do it because they exploit legal loopholes, and that's exactly what these tax dodgers or whatever whoever these people are doing with these shell companies in Panama, whether it's accepting bribes for FIFA or whatever they're doing. It's corruption, but they're able to do it legally by exploiting these loopholes. And the problem is that if your average American wanted to go and say, yeah, you know what, I don't want to pay taxes either. I want to make a shell offshore account in Panama too. Good luck, dude. They're not even going to talk to you unless you got a net worth of like over $1 million, $10 million bucks. Yeah.
Right, yeah,
So I mean,
it benefits. Obviously, there's a different set of tax laws and ethics for the upper 1%, and they're able to skirt billions of dollars. Any one of these companies, the amount of money they're saving, possibly illegally, would single-handedly, fix up the infrastructure of the country or pay for single-payer health care. I mean, you're talking about major problems that could be wiped out with some of these funds we're talking about, and instead it's just being reinvested back into the 1%. And I mean, look, there's major damage control disinformation filters going on right now on the internet. Every single conversation thread I've seen on this is just really vigorously denying that there is any Clinton connection, and yet there is. So I don't know. It's almost like thou doth protest too much. It's like they came out too quickly to say that there's no connection. How could you know there's no connection when we don't have the full leak yet? Furthermore, there is a connection. There's 3 of them. So it's just bizarre, and I think we've just seen the tip of the iceberg with this. And of course, as you reported earlier in the week, this leak itself is just the tip of the iceberg of the overall tax offshoring that's going on.
Yeah, I was reading the comments on your article, Jake, and anyone wanted to read up on this and look deeper into these connections to Hillary Clinton. The title is "Yes, the Panama Papers Could Really End Hillary Clinton's Campaign." Her campaign's already on the downturn anyway. She just lost Wisconsin, and now she's with these accusations going into New York, and this debate coming up in Brooklyn, I think it is, right?
Yeah.
And that's like Bernie Sanders. That's where he's from, and he still sounds like a Brooklynite if you listen to him talk. I mean, it's going to be a major debate.
Debate's going to be fireworks because I don't know if you've kept up in the last few hours. Actually, he literally in the last hour finished a speech where this is a quote. He came out and said straight up, Hillary Clinton is not qualified to be president. He actually said that. I guess he slightly misinterpreted something she said earlier today that definitely implied that he was unqualified. And then he came back and just slammed her and said, if you're taking all this money from Wall Street, you're unqualified. If you're, approving the Iraq War, you're unqualified. And so we're going to see some major fireworks. And, make no mistake, if Bernie Sanders wins New York, it's a brave new world. And, not that I'm not a rabid Bernie Sanders supporter, but I am a rabid non-Clinton supporter because I just don't approve of her positions on about 10 different issues that I feel like I have a progressive attitude on, and I feel like she is besmirching the name of progressivism with her ridiculous propaganda about I'm a progressive that gets things done. It's just it's a sickening reappropriation of liberalism what she does.
Yeah, that's a great point, and I'm kind of slightly on the same boat that you are. I'm not a fan of Sanders. I'm not a fan of any of these politicians, but I am a huge critic of Hillary Clinton, maybe one of the biggest out there.
Yeah, you hate her, man.
I mean, I call her a monster, and I don't say that about many people. I don't think Donald Trump's a monster. I just think he's playing into the emotional insecurities of Americans. I don't think he's a monster. I think he's a monster. Yeah. Well, yeah, we'll have to wait and see how much of a monster he is. But Hillary Clinton, she's already been tested out. She's tried and true, man, and she's proved herself. She's got a lot of blood on her hands, and I wrote a really in-depth article yesterday. I was kind of sad that it didn't get more traction than it did, but I laid out exactly why Hillary Clinton's policies are actually the reason why Trump is so popular, whether it's from his anti-Latino sentiment, with this whole building the wall, deporting immigrants, to the banning Muslims from entering the country. I mean, it's Hillary Clinton's policies that she participated in, at least partially or directly, that have led to both the immigration crisis of Latin America and the refugee crisis of the Muslim world. And Hillary Clinton, whether it's from voting for the Iraq War, whether it's from toppling the Libyan government, whether it's from supporting the Syrian civil war, or whether it's supporting NAFTA, which destroyed the Mexican farming economy, or whether it's NAFTA, which destroyed the American manufacturing economy, or whether it's the Honduran coup. I mean, all of these things that Hillary Clinton supported directly are giving the things that Hillary Clinton did give Trump the fodder to gain all the support that he's gaining. I mean, it's ridiculous. I wish the article would have gotten more traction, but it didn't. But today, Jake, this article did well, and it's going to be really hard for Clinton to drag herself out of this mud. She pushed for this Panamanian thing, and back at the time, Bernie Sanders actually was warning against it. He actually kind of predicted this exact thing was going to happen, and it did. So, I mean, that just kind of plays further into his pocket and his ability to kind of he kind of thinks more clearly when it comes to a lot of these policies, whether it be foreign policy and stuff. I know Clinton gets all the credit for having the experience, but Sanders has been the much smarter candidate when it comes to a lot of these issues, predicting the downfalls of NAFTA, predicting the Iraq war and the failure that would be. I mean, he's shown himself to be much more intellectual when it comes to these policies. I think she's probably just as smart, if not smarter, but she plays right into the hand of the people that fund her and tell her what to do. I think Sanders is a bit different to the fact where you may disagree with him on stuff, but he's not being controlled by some invisible hand like Clinton is. Clinton is being controlled by other people, and she does whatever they tell her to do. And that's what that's why no one can connect with her. No one really feels passionate about her. I was reading the comments in your article, and this lady is saying that you're going to get sued by Clinton. I was like, oh God, man.
Yeah, that was just the most ridiculous. One of the most ridiculous comments I've ever seen. I almost feel like I feel like it's a sock puppet. I feel like it's a troll. I just don't even feel like that's real.
That'd be a claim to fame, though. I've been sued by Hillary Clinton. I'm
sure Hillary Clinton's campaign is going to go after one blogger with one negative article about her when there's about 6 billion negative articles about Hillary Clinton, and this one happens to state facts about her. But yeah, let's sue me for libel for stating facts. Yeah,
Jake, if you get sued, you can countersue for general douchebaggery.
Yeah, I think there's a firm legal precedent behind that one. Yeah.
Sounds like DB Schwartz is joining us on the call tonight. What's up, DB? How you doing, man?
Hey, not too bad, man. Just busy and running late as usual. So
no big deal.
You know how it goes.
Hey, just because I'm paranoid, can I actually be sued for that?
No, but I mean, if Trump has his way, yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, Trump wants to actually kill all journalists, so yeah.
And if you did get sued, we can throw a Kickstarter out there. You'd probably raise more money than you'd need to raise your legal fees. So
that's a great idea.
You'd be all right.
Just pull a Snowden and go to Honduras.
Yeah, hey, just don't go to Panama. So I wanted to bring up one more point about these Panama Papers. I mean, we're going to be covering this relentlessly on the anti-media. The WikiLeaks is now directly coming out and saying, you know what, this leak is funded by the U.S. government. As I said, even if that's the case, they still misstepped by letting some of this Hillary stuff out. And we're going to have to see how that plays out.
Or did they?
Yeah, or did they? So the other point I wanted to make is I saw a bunch of my libertarian-leaning friends saying, well, all these people hiding their taxes and stuff, big deal. We shouldn't be getting taxed anyway. And in many ways, I actually agree with that. But the issue I find, and it's something I touched on a little bit earlier, is that none of us have access to these tools. I mean, this is a regressive, tax havens are a regressive, they're not policy. What would you call them? They're just whatever they are. They're regressive. I mean, rich people can access them and poor people can't. So it's many ways. It's like these same politicians like Hillary Clinton that wants to raise your taxes and shit too. And then you find out she ends up being tied to these offshore tax havens and stuff, and again, it's do as I say, not as I do. The rich people, I see headlines all the time where it's Warren Buffett says that he wants the taxes to be raised on the rich, and then this, that, and the other. But at the same time, it's dude, you're already not paying as much as your receptionist, so he says. So why in the hell don't you offer the money up? Just give it up. Give poor people food or something, dude. You know what I'm saying? But the problem is that poor people shouldn't be getting taxed, and taxes are a touchy subject for many people. But the ultra rich pay even less taxes than anybody else. I mean, if anything, there should be a level playing field, or at least the taxes should be starting out no taxes for the poorest, and then they go up from there to the people that are richer, not the poor people, the working class people paying a bigger chunk of their income to taxes. I mean, I think the average working class person pays like between 30 and 50% of their taxes overall, of their income overall to taxes. I mean, that's not that's not right for the services that we receive. I mean, we're not getting much out of that. And then if you're extremely rich, you go and do this shit in Panama or in one of these offshore places, and so, I mean, I'm not a fan of taxation, but I mean, if we're going to be taxed, I mean, everyone should be taxed fairly, and at the very least, the poor people shouldn't be hiding all their money and not getting taxed at all. That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Oh, man. Claire, you have any more points on this? I know you do. Oh no, did we lose Claire? Oh, Claire's still there. Your microphone's muted, Claire. Oh, she's not hearing us. Anyway, we'll take some callers too. We're going to move on to the next topic, but we'll take some calls if anyone wants to talk. Give us their thoughts on these Panama Papers. The number to call in is 718-717-8296. Keep your microphone muted, because if you don't, we're going to hang up on you until we get to you. We'll say, hey, caller from 718 area code, you're on the anti-media, and that'll be your cue to talk and say whatever you want or join in the conversation that we're talking about, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Last point I want to make on these Panama Papers, give some people some time to call in. Obama gave a speech yesterday in response to the Panama Papers, and he's saying, hey, we need to put in place some tax guidelines that are, international and this, that, and the other. And he's like saying, we need to crack down on places like Panama and, offshore and this, that, and the other. The thing that he forgot to mention was that the United States has actually become the biggest tax haven in the world. And he's sitting here and it's like you're talking out of both sides of your mouth, right? And he's like, we need to crack down on these tax havens and this, that, and the other. And it's like, dude, like, do you not realize that the U.S. is now basically the biggest tax haven out there?
Reno, Nevada, Nick.
Yeah, exactly. It's Nevada.
The Rothschild opened up an entire field office there, and basically is taking. They're basically taking over the tax haven business.
Yeah, I actually have a quote here. It's the latest article over on the Anti-Media. We grabbed it from Zero Hedge, and I got a quote from Bloomberg where they did a profile on Rothschild. And I quote, Rothschild, the centuries-old European financial institution, has opened a trust company in Reno, Nevada, a few blocks from Harrah's and El Dorado Casino. It is now moving the fortunes of wealthy foreign clients out of offshore havens such as Bermuda, subject to the new international disclosure requirements, and into Rothschild's-run trusts in Nevada, which are exempt. For financial advisors, the current state of play is simply a good business opportunity. In a draft of his San Francisco presentation, Rothschild's Penny wrote that the U.S. is effectively the biggest tax haven in the world. The U.S., he added in language later excised from his prepared marks, lacks the resources to enforce foreign tax laws and has little appetite to do so. So that's very interesting. The other thing I also saw on Zero Hedge was some more speculation about how this entire thing going after Bermuda and other tax havens may be a bid for the U.S. to attract more of it, more billions from foreign billionaires, foreign companies, and other people trying to put their money into safe havens. And this could be a hit job to try to just bring more of that stuff to our shores. I mean,
it eliminated any competition, didn't it? Because we have like this big military to protect your hard assets.
Yeah, but the problem is if you're an unfriendly country, you can get locked up in sanctions, and that's why a lot of these countries, like people from Iran and China and Russia, and that's why they did what they were doing over there with Panama's. They're trying to get around the sanctions and stuff. The U.S. wants to bring all that stuff here so that they could anytime a country doesn't do what we say, the first step is to tie them up with sanctions and lock up their money, and that's exactly what they did with Iran. And like this whole the Iran nuclear deal and stuff, most of the sanctions relief was just unfreezing a lot of the Iranian holdings that were in U.S. banks and U.S. institutions and stuff like that. So yeah, this is a very interesting angle, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. If anything else comes of it, it actually makes sense. It's a theory, of course, but it does make sense. So we're gonna have to wait and see. We do have a caller on the line. I'm still waiting for Claire. I hope she's still over there. We got a caller on the line from 607 area code. How's it going? You're on the Anti-Media. Do you want to chime in on these Panama Papers?
Actually, Nick, I just wanted to just kind of go back real briefly to what you were talking about taxation. And I'm sure you're well aware, taxation is theft. And end of story. I would love to debate it, and I would love to talk back and forth about how things should, or maybe how my opinion how things should be. But when it comes down to it, I in my particular belief, when a person or people are given the right to take things from someone or other people, you're never going to have fairness. You're never going to have things the way you think they should be. And ultimately, I just believe that that's why taxation is theft. I mean, granted, it's taking things from, or taking something from somebody by force, but really it just comes down to when a person is given the right to take something from someone without their consent, you're never going to have fairness. You're never going to have things the way, the way we may believe they should be or ought to be.
Yeah, I mean, in principle, I definitely agree with you. I think taxes in general are not consensual. I mean, I think in the U.S. in particular, a lot of our tax money is spent on like nation building, on empire building, on foreign policy shit that I just don't agree with. And if I was going to be taxed and I knew for sure that it was going to go help people that actually needed it, I wouldn't be so against it. You know what I mean? But the fact of the matter is the majority of our tax money is blown on things that we don't agree with, and it goes to enrich, these same people that are now throwing their money into tax havens where they don't. It's like they take tax money from the working people, they give it to their buddies that get all these huge contracts or make money because of the government, and then those guys turn around and hide their money in offshore accounts so they don't have to pay taxes on it. It's like it blows my mind. It really does blow my mind, and to think that all these politicians who don't have any problem collecting taxes on their subjects, on their people, on their citizens, for them to turn around and have these offshore accounts, it's such a slap in the face for the people in these countries who are now finding out that their leaders are doing this kind of stuff. I mean, it's ingredients for revolution right there to me. And you know what? It's starting to happen in Iceland. I mean, what do you make of all that?
I would love to agree with you, actually. I believe that Iceland, as far as the United States is considered, absolutely could be, a point that we all could look to and say, hey, look at what these people are doing. But, there's a sense of pragmatism, and then there's a sense of purism. And I guess I kind of lie more on the purism portion of it, where when it comes down to it, we've all seen the viral memes going around, taxation is theft. I know the Free Thought Project, they did an article on it. I run the page MT News, and I've made many, many memes regarding this subject. And ultimately, like I said before, when a person is given the right to do something that other people are not allowed to do, it's never going to be the way that we want it to be, because you're gonna favor the people that you're friends with, and it will never, in my opinion, it will never be the way we want it to be. It's always going to go towards war. It's always going to go towards things that we don't agree with. And I believe that that's why we need to get towards a sense of voluntarism.
That's a great point. And, it's kind of like the justice system where if you've got, if you're a millionaire and you get pulled over and you get in trouble, you get a DUI, and you can hire an awesome lawyer. Or like that damn kid that was caught, that got off because he had influenza. Similar prospect here where, there's like a glass ceiling kind of thing where it's like the regular people are subject to one set of rules, and then anyone above a certain tier kind of has a whole new set of resources to work with. And this is exactly what it goes on, I think, with these tax havens, is that, the regular people don't really get access to this stuff because who in the hell, first of all, if you're only making $30,000 a year, can you even afford to go hire a Panamanian world-class law firm to build yourself a shell company to hide all your assets? Like, first off, that's just not going to happen. Secondly, that law firm does not want to deal with some guy that just has $30,000. Even if you got that much money in the bank, they don't want to deal with you. They want to see $10 million in the bank. My mom used to work with this investment company a long time ago, and she was a receptionist there, and they literally would not even take investments from people unless they had at least a $3 million net worth. You know what I mean? And so, it really comes down to this tiered set of the first class citizens, the second class citizens, the third class citizens, and that's kind of where most of us are kind of like third class people at this point. And so it's kind of like exposing what's going on here. I mean, there's a whole different set of rules that these people live by. If you got enough money, you can kind of get away with whatever the F you want. You don't got to pay any taxes. You don't got to do all this stuff. I mean, you're not subject to the rules. I mean, if we don't pay taxes, I mean, what happens to us? I mean, people end up in jail for that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Oh, exactly.
And so it really does expose like this double standard, whether it's in the justice system, whether it's in the financial system, the political system, and then right back to Hillary Clinton. I mean, look at the crimes that she's committed. I mean, we could lay it out there as many times as we can, but she's not going to be charged. She's not going to be charged with any of this stuff because she is not in the second class or third class citizen realm. She's in the first class realm, and therefore she can get away with whatever else she wants.
Oh no, I'm very well on record. I have already stated many times. I've made many graphics stating that fact that in my particular opinion, I believe that Hillary Clinton was selected and has already been the president since roughly 2009, 2010.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. Now that these email things are coming out, that it's like all the bad shit that we've always pinned on Obama. It actually looks like it goes back to Hillary Clinton. A lot of this stuff.
Yeah, man, I completely agree. It's absolutely horrible, and I look at it and I look back towards when she was a congresswoman, and it kind of putting the tinfoil on right now. If you're a congresswoman, you're an ex-first lady, and you want to be president, what do you need? Well, you need foreign policy experience, and that's what she got through being Secretary of State, for better or worse. And it's enough to be sold to the masses, I guess. And really, I don't know, man. That's kind of the way I see it right now. We'll see what yet to remain. We'll see what has yet to be in the next couple of months. But I honestly believe Hillary she's it, man.
So you said you run the page MT News. Is this Johnny or?
It is Johnny. Yes, sir.
So I know you guys are like really anti-political party and stuff over there. And so I want to just throw this out there, and I want to see what you think about this. The 2016 election, I mean, first of all, I mean, none of like the Congress runs are being talked about. The Senate, the Congress people that are they're all 90% of them are gonna get reelected, and no one's gonna make a stink about that. Unfortunately, because the presidential election sucks all the wind out of the news cycle. But one of these guys are gonna get elected, whether it's gonna be Trump or Hillary or Sanders or Cruz or someone else, who do you think is like the best option right now, and why?
The best option, honestly, are we talking mainstream candidates, or are we talking about all of the candidates?
Well, what I'm saying is that one of these guys are going to get elected. I mean, we all know that somebody's going to win, and someone's going to be the next president. It's probably going to be one of the Republicans or the Democrats. I mean, because like I've heard theories from people about like, hey, let's just elect the worst one possible so that it just makes more and more people realize this whole shit's a scam. And when I found out that Bush and Clinton were running, I was like, this is like a perfect opportunity for people to realize like we're turning into a monarchy over here. You know what I mean? And then there's other people that think that maybe if we elect Bernie Sanders, he can like at least he's not going to go and start World War III with Russia like Hillary Clinton might. Or Ted Cruz might, and so like I don't know, like what do you think of all that?
Well, it's a really difficult situation. I've tried to cover this. I've tried to make a few memes covering it. Bernie is, as a socialist, he is very, very much pro-government. As much as he likes to say he's not and he's anti-system, as a socialist, you are very, very much advocating the government, which you admit is the problem, so it's an entirely hypocritical point of view. Trump, on the other hand, claims to be anti-system, yet it is very, very much the system that has gotten him to the point where he is now. He would not be where he is if it wasn't for corrupt politicians and backdoor deals and, on and on top of which, he is well established as and I'm from New York, by the way. He is a very, very much established New York liberal Democrat. For him to be running as the GOP contender, I look back on this and, I've weathered my fair share of days, and I kind of look back and I'm just like, I cannot believe that people are actually buying that he is, a Republican. It makes me laugh. If you were pulling my arm, and I have never registered to vote ever, and I never will, I don't believe that politics is the solution. If you were pulling my arm asking me to vote for any candidate, and this is going beyond the mainstream candidates, I would choose John McAfee only because I have respect for him as a man and nothing else, not as a politician, but he seems to me as a good man, a good, honest forefront man.
And he's running as a libertarian, right?
Yes, he is.
Yeah, we actually on our Tuesday night show, SM Gibson had him on, and it was a pretty interesting show. And he's got some very interesting views. And he's actually talked about Snowden and how he wouldn't charge Snowden and stuff. So, maybe if this election does come down to Hillary Clinton versus Donald Trump, it would open the door up for some people looking to some other options with third parties. And there's the Libertarian Party, and they've got McAfee and Gary Johnson and some other douchebag. I can't remember his name. And then you got Jill Stein of the Green Party. I've actually met her, and she's a really nice woman. She makes Bernie Sanders look moderate, kind of. Very interesting ideas coming out of the third parties, and yeah, I agree with you. If people, I know there's a lot of people out there that are holding out for Bernie Sanders, and then you got the Trump people. I just don't know. I don't think that the system, as much as those two individuals are part of the system. I mean, Bernie Sanders has been in politics his whole life. Trump, as you mentioned, has been wheeling and dealing with politicians forever. They just don't seem like the people that are actually wanted to be elected by the political establishment. And that to me is like the most interesting dynamic of this whole election, is that it's not going according to plan, and from my first take on this election, I sat back and I was like, okay, well, this is pretty obvious. It's Marco Rubio is going to be the guy. They're gonna put him up against Hillary Clinton. He's gonna easily beat Hillary Clinton because he's just much more likable. And Hillary Clinton is gonna lose, and that's gonna be the end of her career. And then Trump comes along, and he's obviously, if you look at the media coverage and the way he's being treated by the Republican Party, it's like they don't want that guy to win as much as media coverage as he gets. I mean, they don't want that guy to win. And then Rubio gets knocked out of the race, and now they don't want Trump, so their second option is Hillary Clinton. And now Hillary Clinton's campaign is looking like it's going off the rails as well, thanks to Bernie Sanders. And so to me, I mean, the thing to me that is the most optimistic of this whole thing is that it's simply that it's not going according to plan. And I don't have a presidential preference for any of these candidates and stuff, but I'm happy to see these assholes losing a grip on the control of the election. And I'm just along for the ride. I'm excited to see how this thing plays out. I really do want to see Bernie Sanders beat Hillary Clinton. Nothing would give me more joy than to see Hillary Clinton lose, because she is a monster and she's done so many bad things. She's killed so many innocent people with her policies, and she's destroyed the economy of Mexico, and she's helped destroy the American manufacturing base. And the things that she's done is just really bad. Overall, it's just really, really bad stuff. So I'd join more than to see her lose. And on the other hand, Ted Cruz scares the absolute shit out of me. I have no clue what that guy's capable of. At least Donald Trump. I mean, Donald Trump has so much existential opposition. I mean, he can't even give a speech without anybody interrupting it. I mean, as president, he'd be like Bush in his final year. Bush couldn't do shit in his final year because nobody liked him. I mean, that's how Trump would be his whole presidential, his whole term, and so that kind of is like, okay, well, maybe that wouldn't be so bad either, and so I don't know, man. I mean, the main thing is I don't want Clinton being in there because she is an absolute monster.
Oh, and I absolutely agree. However, I do disagree that the election is not going according to plan. I think ultimately, in the big picture, it completely is going according to plan, because as we see it now, I mean, we see so many disgruntled voters, and I'm right there with the Bernie people. I was there 3 or 4 years ago. I was there. I was sleeping in tents in Zuccotti Park. I was there. I mean, I slept in tents all over the country. I was very, very much an advocate of the Occupy Wall Street movement. I was there, bro. And I was fed up to the gills with politics. And I think that that's where a lot of people are now. They see Bernie Sanders and, they hear his talking points. And yes, his talking points sound fantastic. But when you really look at his policy, at the end of the day, and I might curse a little bit here, I apologize for any listeners, but the motherfucker is advocating more government to solve the problem of government. Like, are you fucking kidding me? The solution is not more government. It is to get government out of the loop. And when more and more people start realizing this, and that's why, I mean, I believe Hillary is as bad as she is, and she is absolutely horrible. I have deplored her in every meme I've made for MT News and any other page that I contribute to. Hillary Clinton is the worst possible scenario and the best possible scenario, because if she steals this election, we're going to be looking at a lot of people who will be very sick of this political process if she steals this election. And that in and of itself is a huge point to me.
That's one of the things that I've also noticed too, is that if that happens, if Sanders takes it, I mean, if Sanders gets the shaft and it's Clinton steals it, it's going to be like the Ron Paul effect times like 100,000. It's going to be much bigger.
I agree. I think it's. Sorry to interrupt, Nick. I think it's also on the right too. If they steal it from Trump, it's going to be the same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be a very, very interesting dynamic, and we're going to have to, see how it plays out. I know the people up there pulling the levers and stuff have probably already played this scenario out, and they've weighed their options and stuff, and they're hedging their bets and all that kind of stuff. So I don't know. We're going to have to wait and see how it plays out. I wonder if Claire's back on. Claire, are you still there? Something happened to Claire's audio. I don't know what went on. I want to move on to a couple more stories here. The one I wanted Claire to talk about is that how electric cars are getting ready to may displace gas-powered cars by 2025. And I saw some very interesting commentary in the article about how electric power is so much more efficient than electric. Electric power is much more efficient than gas. From the article, I'm going to quote here: the internal combustion engine is 17 to 20% efficient, while the electric motor is 90 to 95% efficient. The EV is electric vehicle, which is what stands for EV stands for, is 5 times more energy efficient than internal combustion engine. Combine that with the fact that it's cheaper to transmit electrons than atoms, which, electrons is electricity, atoms is what gasoline is made out of. You get the fact that energy costs per mile are 10 times cheaper for electric vehicles. So it's actually much more efficient, and it's going to be a lot cheaper. We're not going to be paying like this much per gallon per set amount of miles. It's going to be a lot cheaper than that. And then as we continue to develop more innovative alternative energy technologies and stuff like that, it's really going to be a decentralizing force, because right now, when we're relying on gas, you can only pump gas and oil out of certain places in the earth. There's only so many refineries that the gas has to get refined in. The more we shift over to electric vehicles, the more people can have like solar panels on their roofs, apartment buildings with solar panels on them, airports powered by solar. We're talking about a decentralization process, and that's why I think many governments are so afraid of that. And not only that, but the U.S., the largest military in the world, is so reliant on the petrodollar to maintain its financial system and stuff like that. This is a disrupting technology, the electric car, alternative energy. This stuff is going to revolutionize the way we think about pretty much everything in the next couple decades. So this is some very, very positive stuff coming out. And, I want to touch on a positive story at least once every show, because all this really harsh critiques of foreign policy and stuff, it kind of can get a little depressing sometimes. But with that positive stuff out of the way, and the reason this came up was because of the Tesla car that just came out. They're coming out with a consumer level car, like a regular type car that's going to be around $35,000 or so. And this car is vastly exceeded expectations, and they've already gotten 250,000 back orders on this car, and it hasn't even came out yet. They've just unveiled the design a couple days ago.
And you combined it with the Tesla pack for home, Nick, the thing that feeds off the grid and just stores power. So when you come home, you can fill your tank, so to speak, in 15 minutes, and you get 150 to 200 miles. They had that at the auto show out here.
Yeah,
so pretty cool.
And their battery technology is coming along, and it's being able to get people that are using solar completely off grid. This is really, really promising technology. So we're gonna have to embrace that as it comes. The last story I want to talk about is these executions. This is we're now getting more executions in the world than ever before, or in the last 25 years. And the U.S. is in the top 5 of countries that execute its people. Now, we haven't executed that many people in the U.S., but we are in the top 5 in the world. China is at least theoretically number 1. They don't release any numbers about who they execute, but the obvious characters: Iran, Pakistan, and Saudi Arabia, who beheads people publicly. But we're right up there with them, man, and that's horrible. We need to get past this idea that we need to just execute people. And the other thing is that a bunch of these people that are executed are not even guilty, and they've been sitting on death row forever, and then they get executed, and then you find out later, oh shit, he didn't actually do it, and I don't know. I think it's just a really inhumane way of doing it. A lot of countries have already given up on the execution stuff. Most of Europe has already said, okay, yeah, we're not going to do that anymore. So, this is one of the fields where the U.S. is leading, and we shouldn't be. This is bad. It's not a good thing to be leading in. Thank you all for tuning in. Coming to the end of the show. Johnny, thanks for calling in. Great call. Everybody listening, we'll see you guys 5 days a week here on UCY.tv, the anti-media/radio. Peace out.
Through the stereo, yo, here we go through the stereo.